So we're doing the event in state or local sport, physical education, and fitness history from 1865 to present. From 1865 to 1889, February 2nd in 1876 was the National League of Professional Baseball Clubs were formed by a businessman name of William Hulbert. The National Association of Amateur Athletics of America had just been beaten by the AAU, Amateur Athletic Union, which held its first meeting on November 21st, 1888. George Hancock was credited for inventing the game of softball in 1887, and James Naismith invented basketball at his college, Springfield College, in 1891 as a graduate student. In physical education and fitness, California was the first state to pass the physical education law, which required public schools to give students exercise twice a day. Catherine Beecher started the American system of exercise, along with many others, but she was mainly the main one. The Boston Conference marked the beginning of physical education in the United States on November 29th and the 30th in 1889, where thousands attended. A national physical education program was discussed from 1855 to 1900, on which several debates of the system, American, Swedish, German, or English, would be better for Americans to use for physical education. And these debates were known throughout those years as the Battle of the Systems. The American League of Professional Baseball Clubs was founded in 1901, and the first World Series was held shortly after, 2 years later in 1903, between Boston and Pittsburgh, and that was between the National League and the American League. And around that time, the Intercollegiate Athletic Association was formed to better athletes in college, and that was in 1906, but soon in 1910, they changed their name to the NCAA, which was the National Collegiate Athletic Association. In physical education and fitness, more states started to pass the physical education law after California, and those states included Ohio, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And on April 12, 1906, the Playground Association of America was founded to support and expand the playground movement. The Boy Scout movement was also formed in 1908 in Great Britain. It was formed to develop a good citizenship and skill in outdoor activities for boys. And that was the time in 1865 to the beginning of World War I.
Alright, so starting at the era of the end of World War I to 1930, for local sport, baseball is played by most adults during this time. The International Swimming Federation also allows women to participate for the first time in actual competition. It started, I believe, in the 1916 Olympics. Boxing is also beginning to gain popularity as a sport. For physical education, 27 states out of the 50 passed laws requiring physical education to be taught in schools because of all the poor physicals that were found to be in World War I. For fitness during this time, Dudley Allen Sargent is probably the most notable practitioner. He kind of developed the natural method, which is a method that emphasizes improving movements such as running, walking, or jumping. Sargent, he also created the universal test for strength, speed, and endurance in 1902. Gymnastics during this time is actually the largest fitness trend in the US and Europe. Moving on to the era of 1931 to 1950, baseball, basketball, football, and boxing are now the top sports of the time. Baseball is actually hailed as the national pastime. Television was kind of the reason that boxing and baseball became popular. People were able to sit at home rather than pay and go to the games. Women's professional baseball was actually created as well during World War II because all the men left to go fight in the war. Physical education during this time continues to grow in schools. More and more schools are offering it. And then the goals of physical education shifted from like playing games and like sport-specific skills into physical conditioning to prepare people fight in World War II. Smoking and fitness, well, this is for fitness trends. Smoking and fitness actually go hand in hand now during this time. If you bought a carton of cigarettes, it would come with cards that showed different exercises you could do on the back. Resistance machines with the pulleys and levers that we now see in gyms today, they make their first appearances. And then the aerobic television, I'm sure you've seen movies before about it. They debut during this time.
1951 till 1970. For local, girls were now allowed to play in high school sports. Women's basketball became more popular than men's basketball, and the first basketball team was created at Delphines High School in Ohio. Extremely popular sports for women were cheerleading and softball, and popular sports for men included hockey, baseball, and football. For physical education. Early in the 1950s, programs began to increase in elementary, high school, and colleges, as the United States realized they lacked in that department. By the end of 1950, over 400 colleges and universities offered physical education as a major. In 1954, Black people were allowed to participate in those physical education programs. And in 1965, the first program was developed for people with disabilities. For fitness, Lyndon Johnson created an award in 1966 for the youth to get active. Recipients received a signed certificate from the President of the United States. That alone was a huge motivator. In 1951, Jack LaLanne's show on ABC took off. It was the longest broadcasted physical exercise program and ended in 1985. From 1971 to current. For local, all high schools and colleges continue to promote and to support football and basketball for all ages. The first televised college football game was Weiberg versus Form, and the first basketball televised was Pitt versus Fordham, and it was broadcasted in Madison Square Garden. In 2013, 7.7 million children in high schools participated on sports teams. For physical education. In 1983, all local schools participated in May Month, which helped to promote physical education, physical fitness, and sports. It included a series of competitions, games, and a whole lot of physical education. According to reports in 2012, only 6 states required physical education from kindergarten to grade 12. Those states were Hawaii, Illinois, Massachusetts, Mississippi, New York, and Vermont. And only 26 states required physical education on their report cards. For fitness, the fitness craze continued as Wii Fit came out and more fitness applications came out for your iPhone and Fitbits and Apple Watches. It's safe to say that as technology increased, the fitness craze also increased. But unfortunately in 2011, obesity was at its all-time high. 1/3 of children were overweight, and for adults it was even higher. According to Gallup Health Pool, in 2014, Hawaii had the lowest obesity with 19%, and Mississippi was the highest with 35.5%. In the United States, there was twice as many fitness gyms as McDonald's, yet obesity was still an issue.